To the East Hampton Town Trustees regular meeting of what's today's date? So March 8th. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Arlene, could you do roll call, please?
Sure. So John Aldred.
Here.
Francis Bach.
Here.
Ben Dollinger.
Ben's not coming.
Okay. Rick Drew.
Here.
Tim Garneau.
He's not coming.
Jim Grimes.
Yes.
Mike Martinson. Not coming. Susan McGraw-Keeber.
Here.
And William Taylor.
Here.
Hey, Bill. Okay. Good. All done.
Hey, Matt, do we have anybody in the wings?
We have nobody on the phone line. Thank you.
Okay.
Isn't
So, what, Susan?
I was going to say isn't Barley here?
No.
Okay.
So we'll just hop over to new business. Powering soft clamps. John?
Not me. I mean, I talked to Ben. Ben said he got a call from Bayman. I believe Jim might have talked to Bayman.
Yeah. No, hey, John and guys, I was talking to Dan Lester earlier on, and we at one of our previous meetings had discussed this and had really discussed probably the way to open this up at this point would be to have Barley define where he's seating and make those areas off limits. And I had kind of left it where Dan was going to get together with Barley. I've not heard from either one. I did get a message from Dan, want to know when this was going to happen. But the way it had been left is I had kind of left it for the Bayman to interact with Barley. So
Jason just sent us a message that Barley has called.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe we can ask Barley.
Folks, just to let you know, Barley just left.
Oh. Okay.
I got a message from Barley. It says tried to call in. So I'm not sure.
Wait a minute. He's back on.
Okay.
Should we let him in, Francis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand by, please.
I know Barley created some maps of seating areas.
Okay, caller, are you on?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hey, Barley, how are you?
Barley.
Good.
Barley.
I'm just here to.
Okay.
Hi. I'm just here to answer any questions about the help.
Okay, for the viewers, this is John Barley Dunn from the East Hampton Town Hatchery, Shellfish Hatchery.
Barley, we're talking about powering now, powering for soft clams, and I guess Jim said that the last he heard that Danny Lester was going to get in touch with you about areas that you felt should be put off limits. I know you created those maps. I'm not sure if you had ever talked to Danny.
I haven't spoken to Danny about it in a while, but yeah, I sent out all the maps so we can discuss it, or we can consider all the areas off limits, or it's up. I guess it'd be easier to sit in front of the map somehow.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest is Barley, would you be amenable to maybe Dan and one of the other Damon and myself or John getting together with you having a discussion about this and maybe be more productive to take the results of that conversation back to our board, and then we can vote on this. Maybe we could get it ready for next meeting.
Yeah, I'm available whenever works for everybody else.
All right, I'll reach out to Dan Lester and set something up. I'll get your cell.
Okay. So otherwise, I'm here to answer any questions about the kelp project that I sent information on. Basically,
Barley.
we're hoping to set up a little hatchery and grow some kelp out in town waters, which, as you know, is a winter crop. So it shouldn't get in the way of anything. And
All right. Hey, Barley, maybe for the benefit of the people listening in or watching in, could you explain briefly what your proposal is so that the viewers understand it?
Yeah, so what we have in mind is to develop a kelp hatchery out of our existing hatchery, which is pretty low tech compared to the shellfish hatchery end of things. It's really just the addition of some aquaria, some lighting, and we would fetch some sexually reproductive kelp from right outside Lake Montauk, where I know it grows wild. We could reproduce it in the hatchery, which takes about 5 to 6 weeks. We could seed some seed strings and set them out in town waters. The first areas we had in mind were head of the harbor area and 3 Mile Harbor, because it's really the most, it's in the worst shape, basically. And another area just outside of that head of the harbor area, out by what we call the Dolphin, in deeper, more exposed water. So the idea is to extract excess nutrients, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus, and hopefully improve the water quality. So the first year, this year, if we get some funding, it would take place ahead of the harbor, and like I said, that area outside by the Dolphin. See which one does best. Hopefully the head of the harbor area is sufficient, and then we would expand it the second season and then give it a shot at another area, potentially Hog Creek or Acrobatic.
Right.
And Barley,
Also, Barley, could you tell us the time frame for the project? I'm looking at your email now to us. You mentioned it's February to June to be analyzed for the nitrogen and carbon, and also mentioned Hog Creek.
Sugar kelp is a winter crop, so the lines are seeded in around about November, December, and the stuff grows over the winter, and it's usually harvested in May or June. So it works well with our schedule, because things slow down for us in November, and the actual maintenance is really pretty much hands off. We would do some monitoring for nitrogen and carbon removal, keep track of salinities and temperatures and dissolved oxygen. It's pretty simple water quality monitoring on like a bi-weekly basis, and get the stuff out of there May or June. And anybody who wants it in their garden, hopefully there'll be more than enough to go around. And I'm trying to get in touch with Steve Lynch and maybe talk about incorporating it into the town composting program.
Okay. Hey, Barley, is this a crop that's an edible crop in other circumstances, or is the sole goal here the removal of nitrogen from the water column?
I mean, the sole goal for us is to mitigate against excess nutrients. But if we were a private entity and we were growing kelp, we could. It is an edible product, so it could be blanched and frozen or ground up for addition to smoothies and stuff like that. It's also got pharmaceutical, medicinal qualities, but we weren't going to get into the selling of the product. Just being a town entity.
I wasn't talking about that. Yeah, I wasn't talking about the selling. The only thing I know that there's been a couple of there was a study done over there. Over near outside of Pussy's Pond here 2 years ago, and there was a proposed project over at the head of 3 Mile Harbor here near Sokides earlier. But, you know, in the one that was done over there by Pussy's Pond, you know, one of the conclusions that the researcher came to is the actual amount of biomass that was being removed there was really having a negligible impact on the amount of nitrogen being absorbed, being taken out of the system, and it would probably be more efficient or effective to actually harvest some of the wild kelp. Would probably yield a larger volume of material and consequently a larger volume of nitrogen. Any comments to that?
Yeah, well, in the head of the harbor area, there's no natural kelp growing, so kelp is endemic to the area, but in order to get it to grow in an area like head of the harbor, it really needs to be cultured and kind of placed there and grown. So if we were to expand, you know, my proposal is to expand to an acre, and if we could seed an acre and have a successful growth of kelp there, that's the equivalent of about 3.5 of those innovative alternative septic systems as far as nitrogen removal. So once you get to a larger scale, the first year would really just be kind of a pilot project.
Yeah, that's on an annual basis. That's an annual nitrogen, monthly. What? I'm not sure I'm following.
That would be an annual. So once that kelp is harvested, the amount of nitrogen that it removes from the waterway would be the equivalent of about 3.5 of those innovative alternative septic systems. You're talking about thousands. You know, if it's successful and if it grows to the levels that we've seen in other areas, you're talking about, you know, 16,000 pounds of kelp, which is going to pull quite a bit of nitrogen out of the water.
And how much area are you as part of this pilot program? What kind of area are you talking about?
An acre.
The first year would be, the first year would be, we're thinking 3 100-foot lines with 10-foot spacing, so only about a 20 by 100-foot footprint. Yeah. And then subsequent years, if we were to expand, be up to an acre, which is, you know, 200 by 200 feet or so.
Okay.
I think another consideration here about the project you mentioned, Jim, near Pussy's Pond, is that was using native algae, Gracilaria, and a couple of others. And sugar kelp's going to be a much more prolific grower.
Now, is that a native kelp?
It's native, but it's not commonly found in our harbors. But it would grow, you know, ideally it'll grow much faster in our harbors than the Gracilaria will. And again, as Barley said, it's a winter crop. In the Gracilaria, the natural seaweeds are, you know, typically summer seasonal crops and not as fast growing at all. So
yeah, no, the only thing I'm thinking of is you know, wintertime is probably the much lower nitrogen loads. You know, I understand the alignment of having a sort of a summer crop here as far as the efficacy. Is there any danger of this plant material becoming invasive?
No, kelp will just die off during the summer, no matter where you're growing it out here. You know, it persists in that area right outside Lake Montauk, and regrows every winter, but it certainly wouldn't persist in the head of the harbor area. And like you said, you're right. There's more nitrogen. Well, as far as groundwater and stormwater goes, the nitrogen levels are relatively similar throughout the year. But if you're pulling it out over the winter, then you're starting at a lower level at the beginning of the spring and summer. So hopefully you would persist with that lower level.
I really like the project for the fertilizer for the East End. I think that's a very nice added touch to our being more organic about fertilization on properties. I thought that was really very interesting. And also, you mentioned that the shellfish season should not be affected by this, which I think is important as well. You also mentioned, Barley, that we should have a letter from Ed Michaels. Have we received a letter from Ed yet in our office? And then also you're working on the town board approval, it says.
Yeah, I think,
not.
I think we're really just deciding now whether we want to send a letter of support for Barley to go to the water quality committee for grant money for this. If he gets it, I think that would be the time to then approve the project.
Mm-hmm. Well, do we have a letter from Ed Michaels in our office yet?
No,
Okay.
I haven't seen one.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah, and to your point about the fertilizer, even if it gets a few people to utilize this kind of source for their gardens and not buy stuff that's being imported, it might, it'll help close the loop on people actually bringing these forms of fertilizer out to the East End, which eventually just end up in the waterways. So we could kind of close that loop, and it'd be pretty ideal.
Yeah, I like it.
Barley, as part of this study, will you be keeping records as to how many man hours, excuse me, that you've got in this test area in terms of from propagation to establishment to harvest, so that some values can be extrapolated to this acre area we're talking about?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to kind of contribute that as an in-kind offer, but we'll definitely keep track of, because I want to know how much time goes into it from the the collection of the kelp spores and spawning it, if you will, and culturing it in the lab, to the point where we get it seeded on the seed strings. Once it's on the seed strings, it's pretty much hands off. We would just go every couple of weeks and do some water quality tests.
No, I understand that, but just to sort of be able to rationally evaluate this as a viable project versus something else. If it comes down to the fact that there's just so many man hours being placed to yield what really is a very, very small amount of actual product, that's basically what happened with that glaciolaria, or was it glaciolaria that they were using in what was the girl using by Pussy's Pond there?
Yeah, one of them was gracilaria.
Yeah. I mean, that was the one thing that was very clear out of that, is when you looked at the time input on this thing and the actual amount of material that was being generated, it was very hard to validate, or rationalize the project.
I think one thing we'll have to,
absolutely easy enough.
One thing we'll have to keep in mind with keeping these records is that this is, a pilot scale.
Yeah, but you have to. I understand that, John, and certainly there should be an economy of scale.
Right.
If you're doing this in the future. But I think as far as, having some understanding of the time input on the propagation protocols and things like that are actually critical.
I agree.
In terms of time, space requirements, things like that. I do have some experience growing things, and I know how to calculate my cost to produce an item versus buying it in.
Right. Yep. Makes sense.
So can I make a motion that we send a letter of support to the committee for this proposal?
I'll second.
I haven't had a chance to read the prospectus here. I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on it tonight.
He's got to do it by the 15th.
Okay. Well, you don't need my vote.
Okay.
So I still second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? One abstention?
One abstention.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5. I think we're good. So we'll forward that letter for you, Barley.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And
Hey, Barley, before you leave,
Yep.
it's Rick. How you doing? Hey, are you going to be joining us to
Hi.
do a shellfish report this spring?
Sure. Yeah, I'm still working on it. It's pretty much just about done. The numbers are pretty much done. I could do that.
Okay, great. Maybe you can contact Arlene and get on the agenda in an upcoming meeting.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. Anything else, Barley?
That's it for me. Thanks a lot. Have a
Okay.
good rest of the meeting.
Well,
thank you,
Thanks,
Barb.
Barley.
thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night. I'll ring you tomorrow sometime.
All right, we'll move on to old business. Acrobatic Harbor Salt Marsh Restoration.
Yes, okay. There is a meeting coming up, and we're just trying to figure out the date, actually. This is through the Peconic Estuary Partnership. And John, you're on this email as well, yes?
I saw the email, yes.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you, we're going to the next stage now. The Peconic Estuary Partnership has designated that this is a very high priority project. And I've been in touch with Dr. Nicole Marr, as well as Dr. Joyce Novak of PEP. And they are now organizing a meeting to come up, I believe in April, they're looking to do this. So it's a kickoff meeting with the agenda being a review of Acrobatic Marsh Restoration Project, included in the PEP Habitat Restoration Plan and project goals, review steps for completing habitat restoration projects. They want to go to the next level. So we're just trying to figure out a date that is appropriate. And we will have a virtual meeting to discuss how the conceptual restoration habitat should go forward. We need a design plan, and so it's the next step along the way. And I'm very excited about it because we've been working on the harbor now. It'll be 4 years this coming summer, and we will be doing the mosquito larvae water sampling again. That took place, was decided at the December 17th meeting that we had. And the stakeholders are going to be present at this meeting, including members of Acrobatic Harbor Protection Committee.
Susan, can anybody dial into that?
You know, I will ask Elizabeth Hornstein from DEC. She is organizing it, so I will ask her if you can join us. Sure.
Just curious. If you're limited, well, then we'll wait till you.
I'll ask. I'll ask her if you can join us.
Susan?
It's a yes.
Susan, who from the Acrobatic Committee is participating with you?
Christine Ganesh.
No, from our board.
Oh, from our board, John, myself. I am the liaison
From the Acrobatic Harbor Committee. We have a committee for Acrobatic Harbor.
Yes. Well, I'm the liaison. So are you on the Acrobatic Harbor now? You are, correct?
Yeah.
Would you like to
Yes,
join?
I am.
Okay, so
Yes, I would like to be abreast. Yeah, if you could forward me those emails and include me in the subsequent meetings, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, I will do that.
Great.
There's a long list of people from TNC. It's obviously Suffolk County Vector. It is, who else? We have a very long list here of people from the various different agencies. Kim Shaw, obviously, and Melissa Winslow from the Department of Natural Resources. People from the DEC. Who else do we have here? Bob DeLuca from the Group for East End. So yes, I will send that out to you, Rick, and Jim. I'll find out if they have enough room. I don't see why not. It's a Zoom meeting. Okay. Anyway, it's exciting news. I'm happy we're moving forward. It's a big project, and they're excited about it, and I'm very excited about it. We're moving forward to do something that's good for the harbor, for the salt marsh. I sent out an email to all of you, an article about, it's from Pew, about how important the salt marshes are. And so if anybody has a moment to read that, I've added it to our website, that's coming up on the list. But so that's it. Yes, John?
Susan, I didn't really look at that email list carefully, but if you're going to talk to Elizabeth, and if the other planners and natural resource people that have been doing the surveys for the last few years aren't on that list, you just make sure that it's okay with her that they get notified as well.
Everybody that has worked on this project is in here. That comes from the town. Yes.
Mike and Eleni and Sam.
Yes.
Okay.
They should all be here. I don't want to go through the list right now reading it, but it's a very long list, and I will make sure that everybody is. I see that we have the Department of Natural Resources here. Everyone that I've ever given to her, she has, but I will double check and make sure that everyone's included. As I said, that she's looking for dates that people are available in April. So I think it's the third week of April that she's opened up, second and third week. So I'll take care of everything that needs to be done on this. And thank you.
Nice work, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome.
Next on the list is the Girard Drive culvert.
I spoke to Drew Bennett this afternoon after we spoke, Francis. He's going to get moving on this with the idea of trying to have this in place so that we can get this done before the end of March. I had a separate conversation with Pat Bistrian today. As you know, between Town Pond and Georgia Pond, he's got his hands full right now, but he said he would make every effort to take care of us there.
Okay, just so the rest of the board is aware, our permit asks us to do this work in January. But ever since it was issued, we haven't been able to do that work in January, mainly because of the weather, the storms. And certainly this year we had multiple storms that prevented that work from being done. So we now have to apply for an emergency permit in order to get this work done. So that's what, Drew Bennett's going to do for us.
Francis,
Yes.
I thought that we basically did that because it wouldn't make any sense from our standpoint to try to do the work in the middle of the winter because it would likely close up before the spring came.
Well,
and we always made the case that there are no flounder in the culvert because it's full of sand, and they always bought that argument.
Yeah, the Army Corps doesn't quite buy that. So DEC has always been hesitant to change it, but we would like to see if we can have that permanently amended.
Are you talking about the culvert? I had to step out.
Yes.
Yeah, we want to get Drew Bennett to have that thing permanently changed to sometime in March. From March 1st on.
Okay.
So is that what he's going to do now, or is he just going to go for the emergency this year?
Well, he's going to go for the emergency first.
Okay.
Because we just need to get that done as quickly as possible. And then we can work on amending it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm just going to add very quickly to the Acrobatic Harbor culvert. I've received a message from the Department of Natural Resources that they have been meeting with some of the people from the Acrobatic Protection Committee, and they would like to ask that a few trustees attend a meeting to discuss the culvert. And they have someone from Cornell Cooperative Extension. They're interested in conducting a study to collect water quality measurements in the area of the Marsh, the harbor, to determine the impact of the culvert itself. And this is an ongoing quest from the Acrobatic Protection Committee members. So I'd like to know, I wrote back to Melissa and let her know that until we have our report from Dr. Gobler, which is coming up on March 22nd, and a separate meeting with the Water Committee, that we would discuss our future plans with him and see what we want to do, what he advises, and then have this meeting with the department and with Acrobatic Harbor. So if anyone would like to join from the trustees in this particular meeting coming up, we don't have a date yet until, as I said, after we see Dr. Gobler. Anybody that wants to join this effort?
I'll join, Susan.
Okay, Rick, Bill?
Yeah, I'm already signed up.
Right, you called me, okay. Anybody else?
Susan,
Depends
I'd
on
be
the date.
interested, but I think what is important here is that any discussions, whether it be the Acrobatic Harbor Protection Committee, Natural Resources, or that where discussions are being made about projects in our water bodies, it's very, very important that they do not sidestep this board. And in fact, these discussions probably should originate by coming to the trustees first. I mean, it's troubling many times to see these things sort of get a blessing from Natural Resources, no discussion with the trustees. Next thing we know, we have, like we did, I think, a week ago, where Cornell Cooperative Extension or some element of their organization is doing work in a water body of ours. Basically, and when asked what's going on, Natural Resources knows all about it. Okay.
No, I hear you loud and clear, and I understand.
I just want to make sure that we keep this train on the track, and this board, not just the committee, but this board's
Well,
what's going on.
Just to answer to that, I have invited members of APC numerous times to come and speak before the board with their thoughts and concerns, and they have not taken advantage of that. So, I do say to them when I attend their meetings to please, come before the board and talk to us so that we can hear what you have to say and what your concerns are.
I agree. We should all be on the same team here.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, I've got an idea, Susan.
Yes.
Why don't we, formally invite them in like we do with Sarah from the Friends of Georgia Capon, and she does an annual update for us and lays out the agenda, and we can talk about it. I think that's perhaps the most professional way to proceed, is to have that type of a format, and it seems to work very well with the Friends. So I'd like to encourage that and invite them in the near term, since there's so much interest and activity, to have such a meeting.
I thoroughly agree with you, Rick. And as I just said to Jim and to the board, all of you, I have numerous times at every time we meet, please bring this to the board. It has impact when you, a member of APC, speak to us about what it is that you are concerned with, and talk to us about what's going on. Because I do attend their meetings every time they have one, and I attend their special events on Zoom. Like tomorrow, it's going to be about soil. They have a guest speaker about soil. So I will continue to pursue that avenue, which I think is important for them as a committee, so that they're not outside and they talk to us, since we are the owners of the bottomlands.
Right. And we're responsible for the waters. That's clearly stated in the patent. So the waters also. And if you want to email me the chairman or a contact there, maybe another person reaching out that isn't as close to the committee might encourage a different response. So I'd offer to also reach out and encourage such a meeting.
Well, I would suggest that if this is such a concern of the board, that a letter be drafted to be sent from the clerk, rather than all of us individually making phone calls and other members. I mean, we might as well go as a board.
Good point.
That's a good idea.
That's fair.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea, John.
Okay.
There was also what seemed like a lot of opposition to us moving the sand this time. It seems like this.
Well, I think there was a lot of misinformation there, Bill. Okay, the issues related to moving that sand was, from what I understand, a direct product of individuals from another town agency, basically weighing in on something they knew very little or nothing about.
Jim, do you see your film, by the way? Do you see yourself? You look as though you're in a cloud.
I've been, I think there might be a fire.
No, it all of a sudden
Let me
changed.
see if I
There
can.
you go.
Susan,
you
let
go.
me see if I can adjust my lighting. Thank
Yeah. Well, you looked like you were about to fade away, like your film was.
you.
Okay. All right. I think a letter from Francis would be excellent, and so that we can have some real connection with this committee and the trustees.
And I also think that, we shouldn't dismiss a water quality analysis. Clearly, that's one of the things that
No. Hey, John.
This committee is that the culvert and the water quality and,
John, I don't want to give the impression that I don't support these initiatives. I very much do support the initiatives, but I think it falls under the heading, if I want to go camping in your backyard, okay, I probably should talk to you before you find me out there roasting marshmallows.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing, Jim. I think, we do it from a formal level at the highest level of the board, and it's.
I agree. I agree with that totally.
As far as the water testing goes, I believe that Christopher Gobler is already testing the culvert for us.
He is.
In our contract, I recall that from last year.
Yeah.
So
And he has it from before we opened it as well. So we have baseline data from before and after for a few years.
But that is their project that they would like to do with the Department of Natural Resources, which is to engage this person from Cornell Cooperative Extension to conduct a study.
Yeah, but we don't know what that study is.
Yeah, and I think
that's why we have to have a meeting.
That would probably be nice to hear what that study is, and if it truly is something that is bringing some new data, some new information, absolutely sign on to it. But if it's just redundant, we're a pretty open board. We can share that information with you, and perhaps there's a better study that's missing out there.
Well, I think we have to wait and hear what they're proposing.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
All right, so Francis, you'll write a letter, and I'll give a call to or an email shout out that if they're watching this evening, they know that we would like them to come and speak with us to this issue. But we want to wait for Dr. Goldberg's report, and then have our water committee meeting, and then have this meeting with them. Per your suggestion, which I think is a good one.
Just as an aside on this water quality thing, there was a meeting that the Acrobatic Protection Committee had months ago about Acrobatic in general, and the water quality came up. Chris presented, I think somebody else presented. And I talked to Chris after that meeting, and I mentioned to him the DEC data that I looked at that looked at the years that the culvert was closed, the years that the culvert was open, and what the fecal coliform counts were in the stations in the vicinity of the culvert, and how I had averaged things out and done a sort of a back of the envelope quick analysis of the difference in the years, and it suggested that the water quality was better in the years that the culvert was open. And Chris was interested in that, and he took, I gave him my data, which was sort of a distillation of the raw numbers. It wasn't the raw numbers. And he analyzed it statistically and said that it didn't seem to have a statistical significance, but that to do a proper statistical analysis, you would use the raw numbers. So, Chris is aware of this. We've sort of talked about this in the past. I think maybe we could bring this to the table and, flesh out that study a little bit, with a little bit more clarity, and maybe add to this whole discussion that way as well. That's it.
Yeah, that's one of the things we can talk about when we talk to Chris at the meeting.
Right.
All right. Anything else on that?
That's it for the moment.
Okay. Georgia Pond dredging. Jim.
Guys, that was started about a week ago. They originally intended to start the dredging process by doing the south bottleneck. Unfortunately, the level of the pond and the wind direction was really working against them. Last week, we had a few days with a northwest wind, which really drove a lot of the water out of the pond. If you've been by there, the pond level's pretty low right now. I spoke to Patrick this afternoon. They were closing the let again this afternoon, and the intention is to scoot over, take care of that south bottleneck, and then move back to the dredging proper over at the south end of the pond. It's going quite well. The quality of the sand coming out of there is really, really good, and probably towards the end of this week, they may start hauling some of the sand off-site, to some properties in the littoral drift here. As you know, this all has to be done before the end of this month, and it looks like we're on track to get that done.
Great.
Yep, good job, Jim.
Susan, I know that when we spoke a week or so ago, you wanted to get over and get some pictures.
Yes,
I'll give you a call and maybe we can meet down there or something.
that would be great. I couldn't have gone anywhere because I had my chronic asthma as usual
Okay.
for almost 4 weeks. So if you can give me a call, I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm actually going to run over there tomorrow morning. I just want to, get some
Oh.
progress photos and stuff. So,
Well, do you want me to join you tomorrow morning?
if you want, you can.
What time are you going to be there?
I've got to get my guys going. If you want, can I call you?
Sure.
Out of Montauk? I don't really have an exact time yet.
Okay. You have my home number? That's
Yeah.
the best because cell is difficult here.
Yeah, I'll call
Okay.
you between 5:36 in the morning. No later.
Well, I'll have been up for hours. Hours.
No, I'll send you a text or give you a ring in the morning.
No, just
Well, I
call my
know-
number at home.
All right.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. New kayak racks, committee report. Anything?
Well, at the last meeting, we had a long discussion about kayak racks and paddleboard racks, and it was left that we were going to make a decision about that at this meeting. So I'm waiting with bated breath.
Okay, you want to go around the table and get input from the board, John?
Well, I mean, as far as I understand the real issue with the kayak racks at Louse Point is, do we want to try them at the parking lot? How many do we want to try? So that's the first question. Do we want to try them, and how many do we try them? Do we want to try? So if we don't want any, it's over. If we want to try them and we decide how many, the next step is to go to the Nature Preserve Committee and Town Board and possibly the Highway Superintendent to see if we can do it.
All right. Could we describe that as option one?
Option one is yes.
Well, that would be one option. The other option would be
You could do the Bayside Beach. There were some concerns about wind and being able to secure things properly. We have since received another application for a Bayside Beach boat rack over by Clearwater Beach. So this is something that, maybe coming down the line, it is a pretty wide section of beach. I think, John, you were concerned about weather impacting the racks from a safety perspective when they were stored. Is that correct?
What do you mean? On the bay side?
Yeah, on the bay side.
I just, it's always sanctioning people taking off into Gardner's Bay. And is that a, concern? Is that a safety liability concern?
I don't know if setting off into the boating channel on the inside is really any safer. And a lot of people do paddle the outer shoreline there. In the summer, when you paddle down towards Devon and the fish farm, you have prevailing south winds, southwest winds. That corner is actually pretty well protected. So, I think that's a good time of year for it. And there's, not a lot of boating traffic within that first 500 feet offshore. So there is a reasonable paddling trail there, but it is more seasonal.
And it's very shallow there. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy spot to launch a kayak. Hey, guys, the point I was trying to make there is this, is we found ourselves speaking with the Nature Preserve Committee, which has then led to Steve Lynch. And there is a fair amount of resistance on the Nature Preserve Committee to us placing kayaks within that nature preserve area, because the original sort of management plan for that nature preserve basically had a prohibition on kayak racks in the preserve area. The comment I was making to like what Rick's talking about, and John, what you mentioned, is if we keep the kayaks on our beach, okay, the only people we really have to ask is ourselves.
All right, so you want to make this option B?
I'd like to make that option B.
Okay,
Option C,
within option B, I think we need to decide whether it's on the Louse Point side or the Girard Drive side, or if you're talking about kayaking down south, I mean, we could probably also consider Fresh Pond Beach.
well,
Those two spots are good. I would go with the south side only because then you're away from the boating channel if you're going to do a southerly paddle, which I think makes sense down that way.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The water close to shore there is
yeah. I
it's
think
pretty shallow.
John, I think we took 3 racks out last year when the dredging started, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. If I spoke to Arlene earlier today, we've got the applications in for kayak for slots in the kayak racks again this year. Again, there are more requests for kayak for positions than we have available places. What we talked about doing, Arlene and I, was doing the lottery the same as we always would, award slots to the spaces that we presently have. And if we're able to add those 2 or 3 kayak racks back, well, then we're in a position to award those other slots.
Yeah.
That would be considered a different site, though, right? I mean, it wouldn't just
No,
be considered.
no, that's still Louse Point. It's still Louse Point.
So but don't you think there'll be like a conflict between who gets a harbor side and who gets a bay side?
John, I can't, there's only, yeah, there might be, but not for nothing.
First 10 get inside. After that, you go outside.
I think
For the draw.
I think this is already done. Okay, we've done it. The first slots that are drawn here for the sites that we presently have will have the opportunity to take an inside or an outside site. Everybody post that unless some vacancies have been created by somebody wanting to be outside. You're outside. I think that's the only fair way to do this.
But what I don't really understand is, why do we feel we have an obligation to accommodate every single person who wants to put their kayak on a rack?
Okay, Francis, we still don't have, we will still have more requests than we have spots. Arlene did a little demographic study of our present users, and it seems that it is overwhelmingly older people, to include people that are 94 years old. So I don't know that I don't think we're trying to accommodate everybody in town, Francis, but it does seem that we are accommodating sort of the original target group here.
I think it's a good service that's well received by the community, and we've got to continue to be creative to make it safe and utilize our resources, our ownership, to provide the public with access.
So let's do that. Let's try it. You know, there's people starting to put boats on the beach down there now. The Bayside seems like it would be a good place to explore, especially close to the channel site.
John, does this make sense for you?
It does, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I have no dog in this fight necessarily. The only thing I come back to is the conflict that I think we may be creating by the difference between the harbor side and the bay side. I mean, I would suggest that we give slots to harbor side, Louse Point, and slots to bay side, Louse Point. So it's very clear to somebody where their kayaks got to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if someone's an athlete and they want to go on an adventure paddle, they're going to paddle over to Napeague or wherever. But, maybe someone who is elderly or disabled may need the harbor side. Maybe that could be a consideration.
All right. Well,
can I express a concern with the beachside racks?
Yeah.
I'm going to be a Grinch tonight. I spend a lot of time down there, and most people do their kayaking inside the harbor. A few people will go outside and paddle around, but it gets very windy out there, and it gets difficult for amateurs. So by putting these racks on the outside, what we're doing is we're forcing them to then launch on the bay side and then come in the channel against boat traffic to paddle around inside the harbor.
Actually, hang on. Hey, Francis, if we could just take a moment here. The areas, and I just want to make sure I understand, is we're talking about the area just south of the road end. Is that
right?
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
So if you take the distance that somebody would have to basically schlep their kayak, if they want to launch inside, it's not very far.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close. Because let's
face it, a 94-year-old guy isn't going to carry his kayak.
A 94-year-old.
Well, you can use a wheelie cart. Wheelie carts are good. They have beach tires, so that's a viable option. We used to use them quite a bit at the surf shop.
Hey guys, I don't even think we have to cross that bridge necessarily, because you know what? In our assigning spots on the kayak racks, clearly it would be in everybody's interest to give the older folks or somebody who lists themselves as a senior or as a physically challenged in some way.
I think you're considered a senior now, Jim.
I am, but you know what? I don't want to be lumped into that group with the rest of these guys. I'm still thinking young, but I think we can assign those slots accordingly. I don't think that we need to create any hardships for anybody here. The motion I was preparing to make is I'm sure that we can easily fit 2 racks down there. I'm not sure that 3 is going to necessarily work. I would like to at least be able to put 2 racks up over there and maybe take that 3rd rack and utilize it in, like John mentioned, Fresh Pond in a different location.
Can I chime in here? Yeah. So I'm getting the understanding that these racks are going to go just to the bay side of the end of the road.
Yes, because we can't go too far there.
Sand is stockpiled when the dredging takes place.
Well, no, actually, the sand, when it gets stockpiled, it isn't stockpiled hard against the dune. So I don't think that this would be in the way of that sand or even the access down there, because it would fall in between where they have their little road. And you can't put these things too far down because in another few weeks, it becomes an issue with the plovers.
Oh, that's right.
So I think we're limited, and that's why I don't think that we could fit 3, but I'm sure we could fit 2 there. And at this point, maybe we open up some new territory for the kayak racks, and we have what we have. And if this board or the public feels like pursuing this with Nature Preserve Committee, they can. But what I was getting from the Nature Preserve Committee is it became very complicated very fast, and it did not seem to have a majority of support by that board. I can run it by them. There's a Thursday afternoon meeting where we can revisit this. But my personal feeling is that we're better off when we don't have to ask somebody else for permission.
Yeah, let's stay on the beach and see how it works.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I'll second that motion if there's no more comment.
You have a comment, John?
Well, I still have concerns with the safety and the open waters. And now we're right next to the channel. So now it's not just the bay, now it's the channel we're talking about.
The people it's not really right next to the channel because there's that huge flat there. Most of the people are just going to walk the boards down, around the point on the beach.
Well, I'm talking about the tide, the running tide. I don't know, people get caught up in the tide all the time.
I don't know. It's not going to be totally safe no matter where you put it.
Well, where we have the kayak racks right now, when you launch in there on either hard outgoing or a hard incoming tide, you're in the channel, man. You're
the channel in 2 feet.
Yeah, you're motoing right along, whether you wanted to or not. So I'm not sure that we're putting people in harm's way as much as
probably less velocity on the outside.
Definitely a lot less boat traffic and further proximity away from the channel. But John has a valid point too, but I do think it's 6 to 1, half a dozen the other.
But that water it's not very deep until you get way out either.
No, the problem with the channel is when you get to the point itself, because that's hard on to the channel. On the outside part there, it's much further out because it goes over towards Girard Point. I don't know.
So
we have a motion.
I got a motion for 2 kayak racks.
Wait, can I ask Chris for Chris's input here on this question of concern? I'd just like to hear from the lawyer what he thinks about this. Do we have reason to be concerned, or is this not necessarily so big a deal?
Not to jump in, but can we do disclosures to anyone that's on the outside? Chris, maybe, only give it to young people and make sure they're aware, not just put a 96-year-old on the outside.
Well,
I don't know that we want to go down that path. I think that's a slippery slope. Arlene, although it's a nice idea. John, what are you really asking me? Is there potential exposure to liability if we send the old timers out into the bay?
Have the Coast Guard on standby.
No, I think all you're doing is providing an on-land service to store your kayak racks, and it's really not our purview whether or not they go out and whether that's inclement or not up to their skill level. We're just on the beach providing a storage service. I don't think we're promoting using them in foul weather or beyond your abilities. I don't see any real potential exposure there.
Well, if there was a liability that existed before when the racks were put inside, and it still exists if we have a couple of racks on the outside. If we're concerned about our liability, we could put a simple note attached to every storage permit that you are kayaking in an area where there is tidal flow and there is current, and to be very aware of that and check the tides before they go kayaking. I mean, I think
no lifeguards and kayak at your own risk, and now you're just you have to go through the whole legal gamut. Which, I guess we could do that.
Yeah, and then you sign that like a ski lift ticket.
Kayak at your own risk. We're not responsible for death or injury.
Waiver of liability.
Yeah.
You know,
We have a
Nice.
liability waiver that Chris Carrillo did on all our permits. Thank you, Chris.
Maybe we could cater that one more towards the kayak community or the boating community. I'll take a look at it.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, let's give it a try.
okay. Now, I don't want to leave the kayak racks just yet. We have a additional kayak rack. John, I think you had a good suggestion, perhaps Fresh Pond.
I think that's a good place.
I do too.
Where at Fresh Pond?
It could be, as you know, where you have the paved parking area where the bulkhead is.
Yes.
Okay, between that and the Dream, there's a very kind of nice area right now.
Yeah.
A lot of families use that area.
Yeah.
Wasn't that part of your motion?
No.
No?
Don't be a troublemaker, Bill.
I think,
Okay.
doesn't the town sailing program take off?
The town does a sailing program also.
Yes.
Okay.
True.
But do you think that this would conflict with that? We're talking about.
I think if we put it to the north, moved it up to the
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk about this area, one thing I think I've noticed there is that since that sand is gone in the area between the bulkhead and the parking lot, people drive onto the beach there. And I think we should ask the highway superintendent to put up some posts so that doesn't become a habit. I don't think that's
Next baby beach.
What about the other, before we decide to put another kayak rack at Fresh Pond, should we check with the sailing, the town sailing classes to see where their equipment is placed?
Susan, we're talking about 8 kayaks. The town's equipment comes and goes with the town. They're not,
Have we had any requests for kayak storage at Fresh Pond?
Listen, if you create it, they will come.
I know. Why do we want to do that?
Well,
Well,
why?
let me jump back in here with that question, Jim. I know that the equipment comes and goes because my son also had sailing lessons there, but we don't want to be in their way when they come, was really my question.
I think, Susan, they have 6 or 8 boats there. I've seen.
Right, but shouldn't we check with them to see where they normally put them, which
Yeah,
is,
I think we should definitely check with them to coordinate who uses what area and where the rack should go to stay out of their way.
I'm just trying to understand why we want to now put kayak racks where nobody's asked for them.
People have asked
Just to draw the traffic.
Well, Francis, the only reason I could say for that is the number of kayak racks that we put down at Louse Point and at Girard were not a consequence of just sort of trying to increase the number of racks. It was a response to the number of requests for slots.
But they were first put there because the kayaks were an issue. People were using those areas and storing them in the grass.
Okay, but
We don't have that problem at that
Oh.
Fresh Pond.
no, we don't. But here's what we do have, is we've got the people in Louse Point and to a lesser degree at Girard saying, well, this airport has too many airplanes and can't you land your airplane somewhere else? Well, this, by maybe giving an opportunity, try it. It doesn't take much. We've got the wood, we've got the stuff. We could stick this thing in and see if it works. I mean, listen, if we don't want, if the board doesn't want to support that, hey, it's okay. It was
Do you
brought
recall
up.
what happened last year at Louse Point when we put those racks on the point?
Yeah, listen, I was the
We're going to
one.
have the same thing happen here.
Well,
There are people who are regularly there with their families, and they're not going to like this too much.
well, then there's
Right, so-
one rack and we can always remove it.
Hey, Jim, 1 second. Francis, do you have an idea of how expansive the picnic area is? Does it take up pretty much all the beach down there, you think?
Well, it's not the picnic area. People come and they sit on that beach right there.
Yeah,
But
the
that's
sunbathing area. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
sunbathe along the beach and, hang out there and go swimming, and that
Yeah,
consumes most of the open space there.
Yeah, there's a lot of little kids because they like to play in that
In the dream.
green area. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. It's a safe zone for them. And now we're going to be inviting these other users into that area. It's not going to fly very well.
For the other users.
And I don't see the need for it when we haven't had a single request.
Right.
That's just my observation. You guys can.
I know
vote
it's
on it
more
if you like.
work. We have the 2 racks on the outer beach to get up to 3 racks. What if we did go down the more arduous trail of reaching out to other agencies to get 1 rack, maybe put in that area we were talking about before, Plan A. Go back to Plan A and just 1 rack.
Let me ask you this:
people reach out.
if you want to put it in Fresh Pond, how about the other side of the dream? I mean, anybody who's going to go kayaking can walk across and grab their boat.
Absolutely. That sounds like a good idea. If you're going to want an adventurous spot, this is an adventurous spot. You got to be a little more advanced. Take some pressure off of Acrobatic.
Okay with me.
I just don't like the idea of using that footprint. That seems to be a
All right.
family area.
We could try. Hey, the only reason I brought it up is John had mentioned it. I was looking at the same area. It seems like, it seemed like if I had my kayak and wanted to stuff it somewhere, I wouldn't mind stuffing it down there.
I'm not sure how many users you'll get for the north side of.
And I tell you what, we could do it if it doesn't get if there's no interest in it, it's an easy in, easy out situation. I don't think there's anything, there's no capital expense. We have the materials. We could stick it in, and if it doesn't work, we could take it out. Or on Thursday, Arlene and I will be at the Nature Preserve Committee meeting. We can explore doing the spot that they talked about on the opposite side of the road, on the interior area, opposite the launching ramp.
And not to complicate the issue, but what about Albert's Landing, somewhere along there, where people don't have to hike?
John, you didn't mention that earlier. Otherwise, I would have been more than glad to bring that up.
Guys, I'm going to step away for a minute.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I don't know. Is there a consensus on where we want to leave this?
Yeah, I would support a rack on the north side if someone wants to make a motion. If you want to get this done, move forward.
I'll make a motion. Anybody want to second it?
Second,
Okay.
I'll help.
How do we?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, it's carried. We're gonna be putting that kayak rack right in the middle of the poison ivy patch across the dream. It's settled.
What is this? This is a comedy show?
It's turning into one, Susan.
I see that. I like it. Okay.
You want to be part of the comedy. You want to be the straight guy.
I'll just be the next topic, education.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
we're not finished here.
Oh,
Damn it! I know you were going to bring the paddleboard thing. So
Hey, I didn't push it
I
off.
was hoping you were going to skip that.
I didn't push it off. to this meeting. We don't have to do paddleboard racks.
I sent Francis some pictures of the bike racks the town's been making or using. It looks like something that could maybe be adapted to hold
Paddleboards.
paddleboards. The town, they're in every parking lot now.
excuse me.
send Francis some pictures of them. I mean, elevate them and do a little design on them, something like that.
I'll tell you what, you know what? A way of just getting out of this conversation tonight, could you distribute that to everybody on the board, Bill? And then on the 22nd, we can pick up this discussion and vote on it. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Everybody good with it?
Susan, you're on.
I know, I was just gonna say, ready? Okay.
John, are you good? Or did you want to talk about moorings?
Hey, I'm just asking the questions.
No, I'm just trying to help you out here. I'm not.
Okay, I'm going to, are you done, John? Are you finished with your topics?
I'm finished.
Okay, then I will be very brief. Just think about it, because if you want to come back on, I'll be done in a minute. Here we go. Captain William J. Rysam Scholarship Fund, Education Committee. Two of my colleagues are not here this evening, Tim and Ben, but we will be soon. As of April 9th, I'm going to go pick up whatever essays and applications we have for our scholarship fund this year. As you all know, East Hampton High School, the award ceremony is scheduled tentatively to honor the students May 27th. That all depends upon, of course, the COVID-19 situation. But when I will go pick up the applications, they will not have names on them. And each one of you will be expected to read each one, and then we vote privately, and whoever garners the most votes will be the recipient of our award. I wanted to ask you, Jim, this year, are you donating from the Dredging Fund the same amount? I think we voted on that a while ago.
Yes, and that was the amount was $10,000. And
Yes.
Susan, I'm looking forward to, we have voted on our lease deal with Orsted. And what I am hoping to do at some point here is have a conversation about a sort of a larger gift into the scholarship fund that would make it somewhat self-supporting.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have discussed that every year. So we will keep our fingers crossed about the Orsted community host agreement and see where that goes. But I would like to ask, as long as we're here, for the past 2 years, we have been able to give an award to 2 students. And I'd like to know if you can all think about this and we can discuss it at another meeting. I would still like to do that, to provide for 2 students. One would receive more than, there's the top winner and then the second winner, runner-up. So if we could think about that and, for the next meeting, I would appreciate it very much. As we know, everybody has college debt, and I really feel very strongly about helping students as best we can for their expenses at college. And we all know how much just buying a book is very expensive these days. So if you could all think about that. And the next thing I want to bring up after scholarship, okay, sorry, there's Northwest Creek in between. So that's all I have to say for now. The local scholarship awards coming up, and I will have them on April 9th. I'll pick them up and bring them to the office, I guess. Right, Arlene?
Yes, absolutely. And if you want to talk about websites out of term, it's whatever. Okay. It's very exciting about the scholarships.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all for education at the moment. Oh, I should say, back up a moment. I'm thinking, churning in my mind, what we can do as a committee, because we're not allowed in schools. So I'm going to talk to Ben and to Tim and Francis, run this by you as well, to see if maybe we can do a Zoom appearance at a school, if we can, do something that way. And I did make up this very nice slide presentation about the history of the trustees all the way up till today, showing events and so forth. So I'd like to get going with that, and I will discuss it with the other members and you as well, Francis, to see if that would be something that we might want to participate in that way, because I don't see this school year having any visitations. And I feel bad about it because it will be year 2. And that's it.
Okay. We'll talk. All right, Northwest Creek, we have the Hedges Bank area in Sammy's Beach, plastic debris.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, some good news on that, I hope. Parks Department, Dick Webb and his crews went out there late last week, and pulled several truckloads of debris off the beach. I took a look at, the area east of Old House Landing Road down to the Sammy's Beach entrance, and then also down in the landfall section along Hedges Banks. And all I saw on the beach, aside from debris that was still on the bluff that, had broken loose, but it was still contained by the snow fence and the bottom of the structures at the bottom of the bluff. Besides a few properties along there, the only thing on the beach that I saw was some debris that was mixed in with the sand that they couldn't get out by hand. And I believe they're going to work on getting some machinery out there to try to get that out. So hopefully that's going to somewhat mollify the concerned neighbors. And we'll try to keep at that as best we can. I also did identify one failing system that has it has plastic mesh, and it also has core matting in certain sections, and it's exposed. Some of it is bundled up at the bottom of the bluff. So I'm going to try to identify that property, look to see what kind of permits they have, and try to coordinate with code enforcement and planning and parks to see what we can do about getting that cleaned up on the bluff. I'm not sure, what kind of obligation anybody who has a permit has to, as part of their permit, to clean anything up, but I'm not sure they do.
Well, I think, John, I think you're pointing to a loose end with not just the town permits, our own permits, and that is we probably should have some language in those permits that anything you install adjacent our beaches or that becomes dislodged or swept away, they're responsible for it. Because I talked to Brian Frank about this, and everybody's realizing that this it's a problem. It's a problem, and in some cases, it's stuff that was permitted without, let's say, the ZBA or the planners fully understanding what was intended. Some of it's a case where the implementation was not quite what was presented. There's a multitude of things. Some of this stuff is projects that were done without permits. But in either case, it's winding up on our beaches, and it is our responsibility at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. I'm just not sure what imposition we can put on a permit that is not on our property.
Well, no, and that's why I think you had already talked to Brian that, the planners are in agreement with this, and they're going to work harder to get some to work with this board in getting some language and permits that will help the rectify.
I was wondering if we should talk about having them put up some bond money, and a condition in their permit that something gets cleaned up if it gets exposed, and
yeah.
if it doesn't, then
John, John, bonding is fairly expensive, okay? It's reserved for larger projects, okay, larger municipal projects. In the private sector, typically in lieu of bonding, a letter of credit is issued by a bank, or that
whatever.
line of credit is related to this thing. But I think you got to balance some of this stuff. We're working to try and encourage people to stabilize their shoreline, as is the town. We're encouraging people to use biodegradable materials. We're still probably in a little bit of, there's leftover material from projects that the boards didn't really understand the ramifications of. But I think if we elevate the cost of these projects to the point that property owners are discouraged from taking this stuff on, we're not doing a service to ourselves or to the community either. So I think there's got to be a little balance there. And I don't think this is something personally that's ready for bonding or even the lines of credit, doing a letter of credit from a bank. Because at what point do you do a release on that job? There's got to be a D-Day attached to these things.
30 years,
Well, whatever. I just threw that out there. I don't know any of the details. I'm just saying, there's a lot of issues on these bluffs, that these bluffs are receding. These projects don't seem to be working. And and the staircases are getting farther and farther out on the beach. And there's no solution for these built into any of the permits or follow-up. And I think we need to communicate with the town to try to get something in place that, it makes the people who are doing the projects follow through on these things. Otherwise, we're
Jim,
stuck with this.
You've worked with these materials. Is there any way to tag them or so that you can identify where it came from?
Francis, yes, you can. The discussion that I had with Brian a couple days ago was one that, some of these core logs years ago, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, when the core logs first entered the market, the netting that surrounded them was like a polypropylene material. The core log itself had like a 7 to 10 year life expectancy. The netting was forever, okay? And what ended up happening is these core logs, if they did get dislodged years later in a severe storm event, what you had drifting around was really a hazard to wildlife and things. Okay, I don't know anybody that manufactures core logs with a polypropylene netting anymore. They went to a core net on them. Brian was talking to me about a project where the applicant was saying he needed to use nylon lashing. No, you don't. Okay, they sell 1/4-inch core lashing specifically for the purpose of it's degradable. It's not going to be a long-term hazard there. So, what we are seeing, I think, along Hedges Bank and some of these other areas are not necessarily something that was done recently, something that was done years ago, that a weather event dislodged a bit of this material, which I don't think you're ever going to completely be able to avoid. And nobody's really standing there to take ownership of it. And it may have been a product that was installed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before people were realizing what was going on. I mean, God, walk our beaches. There's plenty of stuff that finds its way into the rack line, completely unrelated to erosion control projects that are problems. I mean, we can do better, and I think there is the opportunity through cooperation to get better oversight from both our board and the ZBA here, and write that into the language of some of these permits, and then follow up. There's an inspection process on the town end, much like ours, post an installation, before the board signs off on it, somebody's got to go out and inspect the project.
Jim, we've been doing that with the Phragmites projects and then do the annual review. I know it's a lot of legwork, but, to have eyes and, boots on the ground reviewing the projects, regularly is something that may be important going forward.
Anybody else on this?
Yeah, I mean, if there could be language in the permit, that would be the only thing that would make any sense. It's, you're assuming responsibility for, this stuff moving off site.
Yeah, but it's identifying where it came from. That's the
Yeah,
real
no,
problem.
it's kind of meaningless, but maybe it'll make you feel good.
It's not meaningless to, if a short period after a project is done, it's dislodged, it's fairly easy to identify the source. But on some of these older projects, Bill, I agree. It's going to be kind of tough. And I don't think we're ever going to be in a perfect world where we can count on being able to track stuff down. But at the same time, I'm not prepared to say doing any remedial measures to stem erosion is pointless, because I do know plenty of projects out there where they're properly maintained, they've been durable, but there is a sort of an annual or weather event expense attached to it.
So we just have to be capable of cleaning it up.
Right.
I think the inspection aspect is actually critical. And I think, if we could incorporate language into the permit, making the homeowner or the contractor or both of them responsible for remediating a failure. And our responsibility would then be to monitor the projects every winter, just after every storm or a significant storm. That's the only way I see this is going to not potentially get out of hand.
Let me ask you something. Is it possible, the way, Jim, you have tags for your snow fencing, is it possible that in an application for
Susan, I understand your question, and yes, to a point.
I didn't finish it though.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're mind reading. No, I know, you know exactly where I'm going, but I'm going to voice it so that the people who are watching hear my question, because maybe it's something that they are wondering as well. Whether or not we could, in our application process, ask or say that the person doing the work, the company, has to put a tag on their equipment so that if this does happen, we know who it belongs to. And it makes our life easier as trustees to identify the aberrant debris.
Okay.
Just put a permit number on it.
Yeah, Susan, to that effect, when we're talking about doing this for the sand fencing, which, you've got the wood and wire snow fence that you can affix a little medallion or card to. The wire lasts for years. Some of these products, like the lashing and that, we could try it. I'm not sure that the netting lasts long enough where it wouldn't be like your dog's
But it is plastic,
rabies.
is it not?
But where your dog's rabies tag just simply wears through and falls off.
Plastic lasts for a very, very long time.
No,
Susan, what happened?
we're trying not to use any plastic.
Well, I know.
But what you're doing is you're affixing with a wire tie a piece of plastic to a biodegradable product.
Oh, okay.
That degrades. And what happens is, in all likelihood, at the point that these things become dislodged by a storm, in all likelihood, the tag may become separated from the product. So okay, we find a tag on the beach and we find some of the other
They make jewelry out of it.
lots of them on the beach, but can we tie the two together? I'm not sure.
All right, well, so it was just a thought.
I think, you know what? I mean, I really think, you know, it's a little like what happens on beaches. We get a storm event. I've kind of gotten into the routine where I'm either riding on the beach or walking on the beach. I take a run down because inevitably there is some snow fence on projects that I've done, snow fence that's projects other people have done that I know where it's coming from, because right after the storm, it's pretty easy to track them down. And you call the individuals and go, hey, not for nothing. Can you run down? You got a bundle of wire and sticks. Can you pick up your pile of crap? And you know what? I'm going to be honest. Most of the guys are pretty cool about it and to actually do it. You know, I think we've probably got to get into a similar routine for the north side.
Susan, I would suggest if you want to take a look at what what happens in some of these failed bluff restorations, if you go to the end of Alewife Brook Road, property to the south, there's a failed bluff restoration. There's mesh on the bluff, there's mesh balled up at the base of the bluff, there's pieces here, there's pieces there. It's a pretty interesting kind
who's responsible for cleaning the beach then? Is it the homeowner, if we can't identify who the homeowner is?
Well, it sounds like in that.
This is a year ago about that property, and I went back there a month ago, and it looked the same to me.
And you know, in this case here, John, where it's obvious you can find a property owner that's responsible for it, that should be something for both ZBA and code enforcement, because, you know, it's not our issue until it hits our beach, but the portion that you described, the failed installation, you know, hey, that is the homeowner's problem. But here's the loose end. I think in moving forward, talking to some of the other people, the planners, is what's going to be important is to put language in those permits that basically articulates the applicant's responsibility. Okay, moving forward with that project. Okay, that this is something that whoever's property it is, it's an ongoing responsibility, and that everybody understands that when they make the application in the first place.
Is that written into our application?
No, but Susan, it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be written in. Not so important for our permits, but for the ZBA, because that's who's issuing. In the case of Hedges Banks, we're not issuing permits for bluff restorations. We're weighing in on those applications to the ZBA, but we're not issuing permits for that. We're only issuing a permit, let's say, for sand fencing at the base of the beach and or a set of stairs where and how they land on the beach. That's the extent of our jurisdiction.
But for snow fencing in an application, do we have that language as well?
Well, we're going to have to add that. We're going to have to add that language.
See, we have some language, but we need to really get behind
I think we need to do a better job.
Chris, can you take care of that then? Chris Carrillo?
Be happy to.
Okay. All righty.
Can we move on to some happy news?
Yes.
All right.
Is there happy news?
Yeah, pump out boats. It's
We got a really nice picture from Mr. Grimes, and I'm just about to send it to you.
I did while we were talking what I was supposed to do the other day, but I didn't. So I did it now.
Well,
I don't know whether if anybody stuck their head out the back of our offices. We did get one of our new pump out boats this past Thursday. It's pretty snazzy. It's all covered up right now. And what's going to happen there is this. The manufacturer, we did a walkthrough, Briggs and I, with the manufacturer. We went through the boat. We were satisfied with the condition of it. It was sea trial. There was a report prepared on it, but we ourselves haven't done it. He is going to come down, let's see, the week before Memorial Day when we're launching this thing to be used. And we're going to have a little, basically, sea trial of our own here. We'll go over any issues, and I'll let you know when that happens. And then hopefully we'll have another new boat before the 4th of July.
Good
Great.
work. Question for you, Jim. I'm going to send your beautiful photograph to Michael Hansen, who is watching our program right now. That is our website designer. And I'd like to know the fellow in the middle, what his name is. Is he the boat manufacturer?
Yeah, that's Rick Audette. Audette, I think.
Right, like the author. Okay.
Yeah.
And the name of the boat company is?
Arlene, I don't remember the name of the damn boat company.
Marine Boat Builders, Rick Audette Jr., father and son. And we've been buying from them since 1997. We bought 3 boats already.
And
So I'll email that to our web designer and to you.
the fellow on the far left, Jim, is?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not looking at the picture.
Briggs Inc., our boat captain.
Yeah.
What, Captain what?
I'll email it. Captain
I'm
Briggs
sending
Inc.
it to him right now. So,
Okay. Well, I'll email it to him right now.
okay,
It's okay. Okay.
all right, very good. You use the word snazzy to describe the boat. That's the word I used when I saw it, snazzy. It's good looking.
No,
Thank
it's
you for all
good looking
your
boat.
work.
It's a good looking boat. You stick your head in there. It's got that nice fresh fiberglass smell to it.
That will change, yeah.
All right.
Well, good job.
Good job.
And thanks to Arlene for all the work doing the grant and so.
Yeah, I think that's who really deserves the thanks here, because Arlene has been very instrumental in filling out the applications, following up with these guys, maintaining contact throughout the whole thing. All I do is ride around and look at stuff and say, yeah.
You're so humble.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I'm really going to miss we're not doing the Friends of Erin Montauk Parade, Jim.
No.
Canceled for the 2nd year.
Yeah. Someday.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to records, new website updates.
Yes, very, very exciting. I've been working with Arlene and with Allison every single day, right, Arlene? We've been,
Yes.
yes, we have been very dedicated to the website, and Michael Hansen is doing a terrific job. We had a meeting with him so that we could go through what he was doing, and he was showing us how certain things operate. We will need to obviously have classes when we're all done, but we're looking to debut this. I think we agreed sometime mid-March, which could be a week away or a little more. And I'm working very hard to get the paragraphs from all of you. I did send today again the reminder, a friendly reminder, that we need more paragraphs from people who serve on the various different committees. And I highlighted those that have been finished. Rick did a great job on Acrobatic Harbor. I have aquaculture was done by John and Mike. Beaches is still open, Jim, Tim, and me.
I'm going to be honest with you, Susan. I thought you were doing beaches because you're on the beaches committee.
I've been doing other ones. I can't do them all. And, you know, hey, come on.
All right.
You can.
You're the deputy
Writing is not, I got to tell you, writing is
You're the
not.
deputy clerk. Are you telling me you don't want to write a paragraph about the
I'm
beaches?
telling you, I don't want to write a paragraph about the beaches. And it's not that I don't want to. I just find it very, very difficult sometimes to write things.
Okay.
It's
All
not
right.
my,
So
just
we
not my deal. Okay. I do all of the inspections. I do
All right.
all the dealings with the government agencies.
Okay. All right. So we'll remove you. It's either up to me or Tim. So you have a
Go
pass.
ahead and write something. I'll give you a hard time about anything that I don't think I agree with. Fair enough?
If I write it, you're not seeing it until it's on the website. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Hey, Susan, can I make a
Yes.
suggestion?
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Take one off the table for you. Stormwater management.
That's on our website currently.
I know, I don't know what it is. I think I remember having a discussion about it the first year I was a trustee, and I think it was sort of wrapped into some other larger committee.
So are we eliminating that? Do we need to vote on that?
I've never known anything to take place. That's.
I thought we eliminated that committee.
It's still on our website. That's why I put it back, you know,
Oh.
I'm putting it up there. So if it's off, then Michael, if you're listening, remove stormwater management. 3 Mile Harbor, I'm still waiting for Ben, John, or Bill to chime in. Bill?
We'll get you. So I hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to circle you that you're a yes for 3 Mile Harbor. You're a very good writer.
Pretend it's a
Susan, I'll do Georgia Pond for you.
Sorry?
This is Rick. I will do Georgia Pond right up for you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much, because that was coming up next. So thank you, Rick. Harbor management and dredging, we had, that is done, so that's good. Napeague and Lazy Point. Jim, you're off. You get a pass, so it's up to Mike Martinson, who is away right now, or myself. But
I can do Lazy Point.
good. You know it well, so
I know
You
it.
can write about Lazy Point,
What's
not
that?
the beaches. Why
Well,
can you write
I mean,
about Lazy
what are we
Point?
going
and
to
not the
write?
beaches?
We're going to write. We're going to describe our relationship with the community, because I clearly, with the questions that have been fielded by our office staff about potential buyers down there, a lot of the public does not understand the relationship the trustees have with Lazy Point.
well, Chris, before you came on, Chris is going to write up something so that we have some rules and regulations, because we've been getting a lot of calls from brokers who are interested with their buyers to find out exactly what it means to, or what the rules and regulations and what it means to be a member of Lazy Point. I will go back to the beaches. I am going to write it and I will send it to you, Jim. And if you have something else.
No, I'm serious, Susan. You know what it is? I truly don't have a lot of time to sit.
No, it's okay. What I'm saying to you is I'm going to submit it to you. If you feel that there's something that I've missed in beaches.
Yeah, no, I'll be glad to look at it. But it's one of those things. I don't really typically sit at a desk and write essays.
That's fine. I'll run it by you though, so that
it's not my deal.
I'll run it by you so that if there's something I've missed or have not emphasized that you think is important, you shoot me back that line and I'll do it. Okay?
All right, we can talk about this tomorrow morning.
I was just going to say, we'll be on the beach tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll be inspired.
All right.
Okay.
Pencil.
Records I've done, education I've done. Rick.
Water quality you wanted to do. Now, are we going to?
Wait. I just want to say Rick did a great job on roads, and I think that's it.
Been there already.
What?
You already said that.
Did I say it? I don't know.
Yes.
I get interrupted by Mr. Grimes. Okay. So that's it for that. The website is going to look spectacular. I think you're all going to be really thrilled with it. What we've seen so far, we're very excited, and we've added a lot of new things, and we're making it very easy for the public to use. Applications will be there and all sorts of stuff. So the next thing I would like to bring up is the Christopher Gobler March 22nd meeting. Rick, you had contacted him, I contacted him, and I think John was going to reach out. So that's March 22nd. He will come and present the report for 2020. And I asked him if he would send us the report in advance so that we can preview it and read it so we get up to speed. And then thereafter, the water committee, I will set up a meeting with Dr. Gobler so that we can discuss going forward on 2021 monitoring and testing. And if we want to change anything, if he has any suggestions for us, and he will send me back some dates and times that he's available. And then I will shoot that out to the water committee. That's it.
That's great, Susan. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention is, we have Little Northwest Creek under consideration for a dredging project and some shellfish closure issues there. Can we all think about for this meeting and future planning that maybe Little Northwest Creek get included in water testing for 2021. Thank you.
I'm gonna put that
Rick, I
down.
thought we added Little Northwest Creek last year.
Okay, great. If it's already on the docket, then,
I'm pretty sure, you were there, or I thought you were. I thought we added Little Northwest Creek last year when we were going through the permit process, just because we were looking to get some baseline data there.
you may be right, Jim. If it already took place in 2020, that's great. Otherwise, it'll be hopefully this year.
Okay, I wrote it down
I would
for,
like to keep doing the testing there and continue it through this year, because we are coming on, we fully expect to be doing the dredging this coming October or sometime this next coming winter. It'd be nice to have some post dredging data to be able to reflect on.
okay.
That sounds good.
All right, well, that's it for me. And
Move
then
on to roads.
roads.
Let's see, I volunteered for that at our last meeting. And that grading, I don't think we're gonna need any materials down there. That grading work will be done. It might be as early as the end of this week or the beginning of next week.
I have a question about that. I mean, how fast did that road deteriorate? Does anybody know?
I gotta tell you, that road's been somewhat deteriorated for, I wanna say for years. I think with the heavy rain and stuff that we had this past year, you had puddles there, people were running through the puddles, and you got that kind of washboard effect. So is this something that we're gonna have to do on an annual basis? I don't think we've ever done it on an annual basis. The last time I got involved in it was, I think, the first or second year I was on the trustees. I pushed the sand, which you could see in that picture that was sent around, and we'll take care of that this time. I pushed the sand back over the dune that was in the road.
Would it make sense to put gravel in there, stone?
I don't think so. Actually, I think the material that's there, I think we can just level out, compact it and leave it at that. At $80 or $100 a yard for gravel.
Well, I was thinking about, making an arrangement with the people that mainly use the road as well.
If they want to, it lets us grade this thing, and if they want to improve that road, they can come back to us. John, I wasn't looking to make this a much bigger project than it needed to be.
No,
Right now, it's just a couple of hours with a machine grading the area off.
no, I understand, Jim. I was just thinking, in the long run, what would be the most cost-effective kind of a way to deal with it and sort of do it in a cooperative manner with the people that are using it, basically. Would it pay to, rather than come back every 2 years and regrade it, would it?
I don't think, John, I've been on the board 6 years. This is going to be the first time we've ever touched that area. So.
Yeah, I think there was a cooperative tone with the homeowners there. So, I think there was some further discussions on the easements they need. You get a weather event down there and you don't have an easement, it may not be a great thing for your security. So, I do think we'll be working together with everyone down there.
All right, anything else on roads tonight? No? All right, we can move on to administrative.
Yes.
Payment of the bills. We have Staples for $449.99 for a replacement of a color printer, and that's it.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have minutes from December 14th. Anybody have a chance to review those?
Yeah, I took a look at them. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just want to chime in and let you know I did read them. I'm back, sorry.
It's all right. Financial reports for the month ended January 31st, 2021. Anybody?
Francis, I did have a chance to look at them, and they appear to be in order. Our cash position's down a little bit, but that's expected due to legal expenses with projects in 2020, and everything appears to be in order since the end of the year. Thank you. I'd make a motion to approve them.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so does anyone have anything else you want to talk about before we say goodnight? We're all talked out? Okay. How about a
Motion to
motion?
close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
All
everybody.
right, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Good night, everyone.
I'll talk to you tomorrow, Jim.
All right,
Bye.
thanks.
Aye.